Well, thank you for being here. I am with a good friend, Eric Sarver. Eric, thank you for being here with us today. So,
Great, a
Eric,
pleasure to be here.
great. Thanks, Eric. So, I want to introduce Eric because it's really important because he has a mind that is we're lucky to have access to it for these next few minutes. So I'm really happy about that. So Eric
Thank you.
opened the law offices of Eric M. Sarver in April of 2001. After beginning his career as an associate attorney at a Park Avenue law firm, and then subsequently moving on to a prominent position at a civil rights firm. And for more than 20 years, Eric has successfully advanced his clients' interests during complex employment law and labor disputes, whether that was in mediation, arbitration, or in the courts. And he works in defensive management and on behalf of employees as well. So Eric uses his wealth of legal experience to guide companies through the complex maze of compliance issues where there's ever-changing labor laws, labor and employment laws. And what he's looking to do is to reduce those companies' risks of liabilities, penalties, or negative press or exposure. So I think we have a perfect person here to talk about the things that are going on in the world. And Eric, again, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, Rick, once again, I think my pleasure. That was an excellent introduction. I appreciate the that succinct yet thorough bio. So thank you for that.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So let's just jump right in. So the
Sure.
first question I want to ask, Eric, is, what is your overall assessment of the business climate?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rick. The overall assessment of the business climate. So I think that, you have, I think, maybe two or three things going on for businesses these days. You've got the economics, right? The economic environment we're all in. Many businesses have been recovering, I'd say in 2021, late 2021 into 2022, but some are still lagging. They're still suffering with decreases in customer sales, particularly those in the food, hospitality, and retail industries facing out towards clients. So I'm seeing that in terms of the economic business climate. It's improving, but still lagging from what it used to be pre-COVID. In terms of the business climate in the employment context, right? What you and I do, with your company, Turning Point, HCM, in terms of compliance and HR solutions, and what I do for employment law, is like I'm seeing that in companies, are very much baffled by not sure what to do with the whole remote work versus in-office work sort of debate or challenge that they're facing. I'm finding that a lot of companies, I think, are hearing their workers and seeing the writing on the wall that nowadays more and more workers want to be entirely remote. And a lot of companies say, you know what, some say it's worth it. They avoid some headaches from the vaccine mandates or the OSHA requirements for in-person. Others say there are more headaches legally when you have your workers remote in terms of workers' comp insurance, unemployment insurance, different tax issues. So that's what I'm really seeing. Those are the two main issues about the remote workforce and the economy.
Wow, that's interesting. So when you're talking to new companies or clients of yours that are existing and they're dealing with these issues, let's focus on having employees be remote, right? So what are some, you mentioned a couple of the things, but if you can go down a little deeper with the workers' comp and some other issues that are going on, what is keeping them awake at night as it relates to having remote workers in this new world?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rick. I like how you want to focus towards a specific aspect of this this situation. So I think what is keeping most of my clients awake at night, those are small to mid-sized companies, business owners in various fields. They're really concerned about, say, some of the vaccine mandates, how to follow them. A lot of companies I find want to bring their clients and their workers back. They want to bring their employees back, I should say, into the workforce because there's a certain amount of collaboration and connection that happens, creativity and productivity, when people are together. But then they're worried about, the different state, federal, and city vaccine laws and mandates. So they say, hey, I have an office in New York City, and we have to have people showing proof of vaccination, but some don't want to. Some say they can't get vaccinated because of a disability. What's the legal component there? They're facing worried about employees who don't want to get the vaccine for religious reasons, like saying they need accommodation, and what does the law require them to do? So I think a lot of concerns about, number one, the vaccine mandates, which have been a constantly evolving thing. I mean, anyone following from November through January, it was a roller coaster. It was like whiplash, right? I'm sure from your experience. Now the vaccine mandate for private employers was in. Now it was stayed. Now it was reversed. Now it was the Supreme Court. So that's one issue, vaccine mandates, and should they be remote or in person? I think the other issue they're worried about, Rick, to be specific, is a lot of companies are saying, we have new heightened strict rules in New York State under the HERO Act to have safety plans in place for infectious airborne disease. We have, say, these vaccine mandates I mentioned, workers concerned about getting sick, these constant, surges of different variants. Let's just go completely remote and avoid the headache. But then they're finding new headaches. They didn't realize that employees can be, if they're forced to work from home and they get injured at home, and this is they trip over some additional computer equipment that they had to install and have wires for because now they have a whole home office set up, that you, as the employer, can be on the hook for workers' compensation, right? And you have to have them covered by workers' comp in some situations. They're worried that, say, the employee might live in another state, and maybe there are different state laws around short-term disability leave, right? Yeah. That employee says, hey, I need to kick off this illness, and they ask me which laws apply. Is it where we work in the office? Is it New York? And the answer, of course, is usually where the employee works and lives. A few states have exceptions to that, where it's where the employee works or lives, but that only 3 or 4 states, which I'm blanking on the exact ones right now. But so I think, but the main point is that there are a lot of new laws and regulations to follow, and a lot of business owners out there, maybe listening now, can relate. If you're listening, are you feeling as if you're damned if you do, damned if you don't? That if you choose the remote workforce, you have this set of headaches, and if you choose in person, you have this set of headaches. That's what I'm seeing.
Well, that's interesting. That's kind of bringing up my next question, is kind of this: you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Now, if we could we compare what the damns are, if you will? Prior to COVID, we're now entering our 3rd year of the pandemic and this new world that we're in. And back then, there was a certain set of damned if you do's and damned if you don'ts, right? Yeah. Now we got a new set of those things, right? So can you kind of just dive into 1 or 2 specific types of damned if you do's and damned if you don'ts, just to kind of bring that to light for our listeners?
Sure. Happy to. I'll first preface my answer by saying that overall I'm an optimist at heart, and so if my clients are in that damn if you do, damn if you don't scenario, that Hobson's choice, the rock and a hard place, know that I would approach it as if, what are the positives on both sides, and how can we find a solution? So I want to say that the people listening don't think that they're truly just completely leveled and there's no way out, which I know you and I are in the business of solutions for companies. But some of I think those damn if you do, damn if you don't that employers are feeling are, so I think first, they want to say accommodate, those workers who can't get the vaccine because of disability or they're just exception. And yet if they come into the office and they're 6 feet away from people and they're siloed and they're wearing a mask, then they're damned because other workers might say, I don't feel safe in this environment. If Johnny and Susan aren't vaccinated, and I have my 85-year-old mother lives with me at home and she's immunocompromised, so I'm not coming into the office if they're here. The other person says, well, I'm not coming into the office if they're going to be hostile towards me because they're giving me dirty looks and glances. So I'm seeing that's one damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? The employer says, well, I don't know what to do. Whom should I accommodate here? And I can help them with that. I can point out to them what the law requires and what accommodations are and how you can accommodate each person's reasonable demands and requests. That's one, I think, scenario like that. I think maybe to give one more is that if employers are wondering, on one hand, say workers, are with the whole Great Resignation, they're resigning en masse in droves, and they want to keep their employees happy, right? I think a lot more employees have sort of had an awakening over the pandemic after 2 years, now the 3rd year, saying, what really matters to me, my time and my family. So I don't want to commute. What really matters to me, take time off with my kids and my wife and my husband or spouse or partner, and just well-being. So that's another thing so companies are trying to accommodate these needs for perhaps more time off, more, flexible schedules, but they also have pressing demands because they have that internal pressure to get business back on track, to make up for lost profits over 2020 and 2021. The PPP loans aren't, such a big thing as they were, the EIDL loans as well for economic injury and disaster. It's not as if they were back, in 2020 going, there's some, of course, relief from the government, but it's just not as prevalent. So I think that's another damn note, right? Having to accommodate workers and accommodate your customers and your bottom line.
Interesting. That's great stuff. So kind of just the final question that's coming to my mind right now is, as you're thinking about these things that you've just described to us, what are you preparing, in your business and with your clients as you look out for the next 12 to 18 months? If you see any sort of trends or things that you're concerned about, those sort of things.
Yeah, good question, Rick. It's a good question to think about here. I guess some trends, things that I'm preparing most for my clients. Well, I think number one is how to set up a remote or even a hybrid workplace that is free from sexual harassment, from discrimination, implicit bias. Those were very big issues for companies, starting with the Me Too movement in 2017. And I think what happened is for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, it was on everyone's mind. I help companies with their trainings, with guidance on what the laws require. But then, with COVID, people thought, oh, that's a back issue. Now everyone's remote, it's not going to happen. And yet, I'm seeing a trend where virtual workplace harassment is on the rise. So that's the trend that I'm seeing with clients. And my job is to help businesses to follow the laws around harassment. I think another trend that I'm seeing will be to continually follow the different stages of vaccine mandates. What will New York City do, right, with their private employer vaccine mandate? Will the Biden administration, if there's another surge, will they seek to, repackage the last, the executive order that was supposed to be, the vaccine mandate into something else, looking from the Supreme Court's reasoning? Will they try to recreate that? I'm not so sure they will. I think it gave a long, hard fight. And I think that, they're reading the writing on the wall and seeing the companies and businesses will really object to that. And they're hoping to focus on more, just the push for people to get safety protocols and, to voluntarily vaccinate. But I'm seeing that as an issue also. And I think that what I'm, trying, to help my clients with business owners is also to, get them to really just to take a complaint seriously, right? If there's a complaint about overtime pay because workers at home, let's say the company misconstrued what the overtime laws are. So Johnny logs in at 9, logs out at 5, but he gets 3 emails at 7 o'clock at night he has to respond to, and 2 text messages at 8 o'clock, and he responds. Those are extra hours you have to log. And so a lot of employers are getting these demand letters from employee side attorneys saying, hey, you didn't pay Susan all her wages because she's off the clock at 5, but you're giving her work. So I'm telling my clients, schedule sends on emails, right, to 9 a.m. the next day when they start. Don't send that text until the next morning. Don't call unless it's urgent or they're an exempt employee from the FLSA, which is overtime law for the federal government, federal law rather. So I think those are 3 main issues I'm helping my clients with: the vaccine mandates and overtime and harassment in the workplace.
That's terrific, and I think that we can do this again. Just talk about those last 3 things.
Oh yes.
I think that would be those would be terrific topics to dive into further. So, Eric, I really want to appreciate your being here. I want to make sure I want to let our audience know how they can reach you, and I'm going to read off your website and contact information. If I've missed it, please update me.
Sure.
But I have the website as Sarver, SARVER law.com, sarver-law.com. I have your phone number as 917-930-8684. That's 917-930-8684. And your email, EMS at Eric, ERIC-SARVER.com. EMS at ericsarver.com.
Right. E as in Eric, M as in Mitchell, S as in Sarver at ericsarver.com.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's terrific. So again, I want to thank you for being here. We have so much to look forward to in 2022 and beyond, and we have so much to prepare our clients with, and I appreciate you sharing your knowledge because it's truly amazing stuff. So thank you so much for being here, and I want to wish you an awesome day.
Rick, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure talking with you as always. Always great to talk with you. You have excellent questions, and I'm really grateful. So thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too, Rick.